Okay, I think this is working. All right, as a guy who's been running a website, a day trading website I'm in my 12th year, so working on a dozen here. I've seen a little bit of everything. And so before I go into the watch list for Wednesday, I just want to take a moment to talk about something that I don't know, it's been weighing on my mind lately. Every now and then, running a site like this, I'll get an email from somebody saying, "Hey, this idiot running this other site, I've been in his chat room, I tried it out, and it cost me a whole bunch of money." Um, and my first instinct is always to tell that person, no, the guy running that chat room didn't cost you money, because you should never blindly follow anybody. All right. Well, the best advice I try to give to my traders in the room, at least once a week, is if you're getting ready to take a trade and you can't explain to somebody standing over your shoulder exactly why you're taking that trade, you shouldn't be taking that trade. Okay. So never blindly follow anybody. If you're in a chat room, or if somebody gives you a hot tip, whatever, you should never it's your money you're putting to work. So never throw your money at anything unless you can explain. Doesn't have to be somebody really over your shoulder. It can be an imaginary person over your shoulder, but make sure that you can give an explanation why you're taking the trade. Doesn't mean your explanation, the reasoning, is going to guarantee that the trade's going to work, but at least you've got a check and balance going on there. You know that you do have a reason based on what you know about trading. You have a reason for that trade. All right, does that make sense? You know what? I'll give you one example from today. Lumber Liquidators LL. If you watch my watch list videos this week, I've been watching for a bounce in LL. So it's just on a chart every day. All right. I am not thinking this is a bullish chart. I have no guarantee if this is a double bottom it just put in. But it doesn't cost me anything to have it on a chart. Okay. So on a 5-minute basis today, we all know how beaten up this is. So we know it could get a nice pop. Okay. If it gives the right setup. So it runs out of the gate in the first 20 minutes or so and hits 28.84. Okay. I didn't do anything with it because it didn't meet any parameters that I looked for. Right. So then it pulls back, starts climbing up again. Now, is this a lower high or is it headed up? I think I noticed it about here. Now, I didn't want to chase it because it had just run 40 cents to get here. So I said to myself, I'm going to wait for a proper setup. Right. So sellers come in here. And that's what I want to see. If I'm going to go long, I'd like to go long pretty close to that high of day, because the high of day break is what's going to get some short covering in LL, a stock that beaten up. Remember, not a pretty daily chart at all, but it's way oversold, and there's a lot of passion on both sides behind this stock. So now if I break this down, well, first of all, I called it over this red candle in the chat room. I said 28.72, I think 28.61 stop. So trigger above this red candle, stop below it, and you can see what happened. Okay, I'll go to 1-minute candles just to give you a little bit of a better view. This is what it looked like on 1-minute candles. So there's that early high again. You kind of had a little cup and handle, and you just had a really like a tight flag with the high of day just above. I knew if this broke the high of the day, it had a good chance of giving a good spike. All right, so that's an example of, I can tell you exactly why I picked 28.72, and my stop was below this little flag, 28.61. It's very clear. And every trade I take, now I don't always get to do this ahead of time. Okay, if something's setting up and I think it might trigger in the next minute or two, I'll just throw out the trigger and the stop in the chat. But I tell everybody, I promise you, like during the lunchtime period, the slowdown or whatever, I can go back, bring up that chart and show you exactly why I called it. Okay, and I can give you reasons just like this. So if you're getting ready to take a trade because somebody called it and you have no idea why you're taking it, to me that's silly. Do not throw your money at anything unless you can explain what you're doing. Okay, in short, have a reason for every trade. Okay, that's super important. It's never, in my opinion, it's never. This sounds like, hey, he runs a website, so he's trying to take away some responsibility for his bad calls. Everybody makes bad calls, but I just want to make sure that nobody ever. You shouldn't blame anybody. Okay, you have to understand why you're taking the trade. Now, if you're brand new, you could say, well, I'm brand new. I have no idea what a good setup looks like. Then don't trade. Paper trade. If you have to paper trade for 2 months, then paper trade for 2 months. Ask questions. I have a daily Q&A, and I don't get anywhere near enough questions. Some days I don't get any, and it's aggravating to me because I know I've got newer traders. I know they don't know why I call it something, or maybe I haven't explained it yet, or I know there's people quietly confused, but yet I don't get questions during the Q&A. It's a valuable resource, man. Take advantage of the Q&A. That's how you learn. People say, well, Mike, I need to make money now. I've got to feed my family, and I don't, I'm new at trading. Well, you should have a job then. And I'm not being mean, but you cannot start trading and support your family, right? You can't. You should be trading 100 shares tops and learning to trade, not trying to make money. I think a chat today I said that's like your first week in medical school performing surgery, right? You don't do that. They don't let you do that. Well, they do. They let you do it on dead people, right? There's a good reason for that. You can't kill a dead person. Same thing with paper trading. You can't kill your account if you're paper trading, right? Asking questions, but you don't put real money to work. A lot of people think this is way easier than it is. All right, I babbled long enough. Now let's go into the watch list. JD. Pan out a little bit here. Okay, so JD had a high back here in September after this bounce of basically $30. It looks like it was $29.98. No, I'm sorry. It was $30.20 is what it went to this day. All right, so then you kind of got a big old fat cup and handle, right? It put in a high this day of $29.90, and then you could call this the handle, and today could be, day one of an attempted breakout. So I want to watch this on Wednesday for a push through 30. All right, so that's a fairly interesting setup to me. And JD had relative strength today on a pretty weak day in the market. Glance at the SPY real quick. You can see today market closed at its lows. Look at the volume the last 2 days. Very, very light in the market. What does that mean? I have no idea. But just there's not a lot of passion out there in really much of anything that I've been looking at. Digital Ally, DGLY. This one gapped up 4.4 million shares. It's a low float with a lot of shorts. Shorts definitely won today. This was on earnings, by the way, but it closed at its lows. A lot of times you get something like this and the shorts get a hold of it and it ends up closing at its lows, and then the next day you get a really nice bounce. So does that mean I buy it at the open tomorrow? Of course not. It just goes on a chart, just like Lumber Liquidators. It goes on a chart, and I'll see if it gives me a proper setup. AXN, a cheapie here. Had it on bounce watch today, never gave a trigger. It got a kind of a little bottoming tail through the 20-day moving average. It just goes back on bounce watch tomorrow, okay? Again, only with a proper intraday setup. RADA. RADA, 20 million shares yesterday. And, briefly took out yesterday's high this morning. I would have never chased it like that. But, much lower volume today. I don't know. I feel like this one probably needs to come in a little more, but you never know. Tomorrow it might rip. So it just goes on watch again. A lot of these, people get frustrated with me and say, well, I don't have any kind of trigger price off these videos. I don't know where to buy it tomorrow. Because a lot of these are just stocks that have exhibited recent passion. All right. And so I want to have them on an intraday chart so I can possibly catch a trade. Every once in a while I'll have in these videos, a lot like JD, that's pretty interesting over 30. But again, I don't know how it's going to open tomorrow, so keep that in mind. It might open over 30, it might gap down to 28 and then run to 30, in which case I don't want it. So, all these are sort of assuming a fairly flat open tomorrow. So keep that in mind too. Another cheapie, SGNL. It's a pretty low float stock too, but nice relative volume for this stock and closed near its highs. You can see what it did back here in the middle of February. Had a huge move. Then it kind of put in a lower high and a lower high here and a lower high again, but the volume might just attract a second day, or maybe a red to green or some kind of follow through tomorrow. ORMP, I almost feel silly putting this on because of the huge move it made. But again, you might get a gap down and then a red to green and a nice trade. So, but this one should be on watch, for the next week or so. Tomorrow is not that interesting to me, but maybe after a couple day pullback. ARTX. This one had a big move. I think this was earnings day. Then it sold off. Again, just like I said, a lot of times these stocks end up sellers get a hold of them, right? And they close at the lows and look at the very next day. And then the day after that, it went right through the highs of the gap up day. So now it's down 3 days in a row, touching the 8-day, down to near recent lows. So that goes on Bounce Watch also. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. That's enough to watch. We'll find some gappers in the morning and maybe some news plays throughout the day as well. I kind of feel like my watch lists have been too big. Now keep in mind I've got 6 monitors and tons of charts, so I shouldn't miss any of these if they give a proper setup, but sometimes I get overwhelmed during the day and I do miss some of them. So that's about as big as I want my watch list to be. So, all right, have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.